Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Mark.
You want to take over? You want to go for the run? Hey, Brian. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be
All right, I guess we can't get started until I do go for my run now.
Yep. That'll
I'll
start.
stomp on your feet.
No.
Kenneth is over here like, what the hell is he doing? Nobody knows what the hell I do right here. Right? All right. On-time drawing. What do we have? We have stuff.
On Easter basket.
Easter, we should have done an Easter basket, shouldn't we? That would have been last week. Number, I mean, we have 14. All right, what number do you guys want?
Four.
What do we have? We have a box, a white box. What is in the white box? A mug.
Oh, that's nice.
What's on the mug? I think,
It's not a mug, it's a mule.
Oh, a Moscow Mule Cup.
somebody used to work at a bar. And so it's Tito's for Moscow Mule.
I like it.
All right? What else we have? Shirt
Green.
and lots of other stuff.
It's like a sleeve shirt.
Has your name written on it? What number does it have? That is you. All right. Number.
All right, get
Wow.
It's not rigged. It is a random.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. Let's get down to business. Because we're getting serious here, right?
Yep.
Because I'm always serious, right?
Too serious.
Too serious? All right.
Oh my goodness.
Check it on Facebook. Tag those around you. Why do I ask you guys to do this every week and most of you don't do it? Why do I ask you?
To create more
It's purely selfish reasons. Because I'm always looking to recruit more agents. So when other agents from other companies start seeing this, they're like, oh yeah, that
Right.
21 is pretty cool, right? So if you could do that, take pictures of your favorite broker.
Thanks.
Whose birthday is tomorrow?
Yours?
And then make sure that you tag me, tag those around you, check in at Realty One Group Southwest, not the private group, but the public. All right, Stacia,
Yes.
there she is, our breakfast sponsor that many of you are nibbling on right now, was provided by Stacia.
I was up all night baking.
Whatever.
Oh, I'm exhausted. Good morning. So I handed out this little flyer. If you don't have it, it's just kind of a breakdown of the difference between a home warranty and homeowner's insurance. So I just have a question for everyone. Has anybody of you ever had the unfortunate experience of being in a car accident? You've had to send your car in to a body shop and go through insurance to get it repaired.
Yes.
Has any of you ever had to make a doctor's appointment with your primary doctor and you've had to wait a couple weeks before you could get in to see them?
Yeah, I just walk in. I don't listen to the rules. I'm just
Okay.
kidding. Yes.
So, I'm just as an offside, we are an optional coverage. You're not required to have it, and what we are is budget protection. We aren't in urgent care and we aren't in emergency room. And that doesn't mean that somebody couldn't call in a claim and 2 hours later somebody's out there and it's a repair and it's done and they walk away. That also doesn't mean that every repair happens that way. And we're a service company, we provide a service, but we don't manufacture anything. So we don't have a warehouse or warehouses throughout the United States that maybe have a 12-year-old compressor for your GE refrigerator that fits exactly out how it needs, or an element for your 8-year-old stove. There are some times where parts and pieces are available, but available 7 to 10 days out. Or if you have a Samsung, 3 to 5 months out. And whether you
Are they
call
the worst?
Samsung is the bane of my
Really?
existence.
Really?
They have creative and fun-looking appliances,
Ooh.
and they Samsung,
Correct.
and they never have parts available.
Yes.
So, as a homeowner, you take on or your clients take on a responsibility of being a homeowner, and that doesn't always provide instant gratification. But they also have responsibilities as a homeowner. So let's say a refrigerator goes out, a 7-year-old refrigerator, and it's a compressor, and we can replace the compressor, but parts availability is 7 to 10 days out. And we source from many, many companies. So if it's 7 to 10 days, it's probably on a manufacturing line getting made, and that's why it's not immediately available. We don't have a way to speed that up. We just don't. So you don't have a refrigerator for, in theory, 2 weeks, because you find that it goes out, we send someone out, we find out the problem,
Right.
they send us what the part is that they need, and they can't source it because, and there might be an individual company out there that has the part just by chance, but we don't have access to people's private inventory. So we have to put out our feelers to all of our providers, and they say, we'll have that available in 7 to 10 days.
And you lose your food.
And you need to empower
Just
your
put stuff in your garage refrigerator. What's
Well,
the big deal?
But
You gotta go buy one now.
but things happen, right? Things happen out of our control. I have more than one time in the summer walked and my shoe strap breaks and I'm walking around. I don't bring an extra pair of shoes with me, so things happen, and there has to be a solution, and you can't always defer that solution as somebody else's fault. It's nobody's fault, right? You can rent refrigerators from Rent-A-Center or Aaron's for $35 to $70 a month. You can hand wash dishes for a while, albeit it might be inconvenient. You can rent portable AC units. We have an option that gives a reimbursement for that. But I'm just here to say that although we're here to hopefully make your clients whole at some point, in no place do we ever promise an emergency service or an urgent care type of service, because we don't control the inventory. And as I say this, it's not from a political standpoint at all, but when tariffs start, if they happen, and there's so many parts that are made overseas, I anticipate there being more delays, because it's like we read the other day, or saw on the news, that DHL won't ship parts or shipments that are over $800. And so we're not ordering things, or our manufacturers aren't ordering things at just $800. They're ordering thousands of dollars of things. And so if those things are available, but they're overseas, I'm sure there's gonna be a meeting of the minds of our executive staff, but understand, although we don't have an obsolete parts clause in our plan. So if it's an obsolete part, meaning that it's completely not available, we are gonna replace that. But if it's not obsolete and it's just gonna take a week or 2 to get, we're not gonna replace an entire system, whether that be an appliance or an AC or a water heater that can be fixed for $300. It just doesn't make financial sense for a company that is a for-profit company. We would go out of business. So I urge you, whether you're using me or someone else, let me connect with your clients. And I'm not rude by any stretch of the imagination, but I really like to set the expectation, and we don't know what we don't know, right? So do they know they can rent a refrigerator, or do they know they can add an option? Let me talk to them about those things so that they're just aware. At that level of awareness, it doesn't mean that they're not gonna be unhappy, but it means that they already know. So if you're not working with someone that you like, trust, or have confidence in, I'd love the opportunity to sit down and see if I'm the right fit for your business. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All righty.
They probably forgot.
Rev Up training's coming up. So tomorrow is finding motivated sellers and preparing to win the listing. Jeff is the instructor on that. All our Rev Up classes are on Zoom from 9 to 11. The next Wednesday is winning the listing and negotiating the sale. Wendy's the instructor on that. And then module 10, closing the sale and creating clients for life. And David is the instructor on that. And then we take a little break. So we're started taking a break between Rev Up sessions. So we have a couple week break till the next one starts up again. All right, but with that being said, we have all sorts of training now. So there's these calendars we put everywhere throughout the office. Let's take a look at today. There's a Green Valley something going on. But Anthony, what do you got going on later?
Recently I've just been getting a lot of questions about our new NetSheet platform. I'll pass out these flyers after this meeting, is concluded, but it's definitely a great platform that you guys would love to use. It's really going to prorate your mortgage amounts, tax amounts, all that good stuff. So really while you're generating your NetSheets, you just have to put in commission splits. So it's super useful. In addition to that, I think there's a total of 20 calculators. So if you have a buyer representing all the new changes, let's say that you don't, they aren't willing to pay your commission, or they can't afford to pay your commission, right? They have a calculator in there that'll tell you how to alter your offer so you can receive your commission from that client.
Who's already downloaded the app and is using it? Yeah, and those of you that haven't, you need to. It's a great app. The app itself has been around in the industry for quite a few years, and it's an amazing tool to use.
A big supporter of that platform is Tom Ferry. He actually just did a big social media video on it promoting.
Tom
Ferry? Never heard of him.
The app, you also get alerts from your clients' birthdays and stuff.
Cool.
So that is when?
It's going to be right after the sales meeting. We'll be here from 11 to around 12-ish.
Here, right here, in this room.
All right. This is for our NetSheet platform, so you can generate NetSheets for your buyers and sellers. Also, just want to give you guys kudos. You guys' office was the top capture percentage for Rock Title, so we do appreciate you guys' support in business. Definitely don't make those mistakes.
Let me hear you say it. You guys are the best.
You guys are the best. Southwest is best.
There you go. Yeah, so we have all sorts of trainings and training calendars going on. Oh, there's Anthony's class right there. All right, today is Thursday, means food truck. So out there in the parking lot, every Thursday afternoon, there's a food truck for all the tenants and for here. So today from 11 to 1:30 is Slanging Tacos. You gotta guess what they have. Tacos.
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers. No hamburgers. All right, so that's 11 to 1:30. One day is coming up. So one day is when we celebrate our anniversary. And every May 1st, we do stuff to give back to our community. We volunteer, we collect things, we donate, and so this year is kind of special. So it is our 20th anniversary. So it's kind of a big deal. So we're making kind of a big deal out of it. So we're having an event at Green Valley office next Thursday. So we are collecting items, so you can collect them beforehand and I can take them over, or you can go. Anybody that donates any of the stuff will get a shirt until we run out of shirts.
Like what kind of stuff? I'm sorry. What kind of items? Water?
Glad you asked. Just so happen to have it here. All right, so here are and we're donating, I don't remember who, we're actually a school or a nonprofit. And this is what they need. Glue sticks, tri-fold pocket folders, notepads, colored pack markers, hand sanitizer, Kleenex, backpacks, unisex backpacks, gift cards under $15 value, and gray t-shirts.
Gray t-shirts?
Gray t-shirts, adult size, small, medium, and large. Now, we've put gold stars next to two of the items. They have not received any of these items yet, and those would be the backpacks and the gray t-shirts. So if any of you want to pass it around, whatever, we'll have it up there. You can ask Stephanie, but this is what we're collecting. So again, you can bring it here, and I'll take it, or join us at Green Valley. It's going to be, there's a proclamation where it's Realty One Day. The state has proclaimed it, the city of Las Vegas, city of Green Valley. There's going to be some special guests. I know Cuba's going to be there for one, that's a real special guest. But there's going to be local dignitaries. And so be there next Thursday from 12:30 to 2 p.m. I believe there's going to be food.
Be there.
I'm pretty sure there's food trucks.
Are we still gonna have our office meetings
No.
in here? No office meeting.
No office meeting here. Let's all go to Green Valley
Okay.
All right.
and support.
So can we donate here and still go, or
Yeah.
go there to
Yeah,
donate?
you can donate here and donate there. Donate twice. The more
So
the
we can
better.
give it to you, so we don't have to take anything?
If you know what, maybe I can get somebody to help me load it up.
Absolutely.
Maybe you better bring me a t-shirt.
Where are you gonna get the t-shirts? Maybe off Amazon.
You know what else?
She's ordering them right now.
Or
Walmart.
Yeah.
Ross,
You know where else?
Oh,
Got a
yeah,
whole bunch
yeah,
of
Walmart.
colors.
Walmart would be good, or
There's
Target.
Hobby Lobby's got
Walmart.
a whole bunch of colors.
Yeah.
Oh, Hobby Lobby?
And they're cheap.
Good idea.
$2 to $3 I
Mark.
think.
Not like, they're not like package of pins and undershirts, actual t-shirts.
Actual t-shirts, not, I guess, I don't know, it just says t-shirts, so. I think either one would work, but adult size, medium, small, medium, large. Hey Jeff, glad to see you made it. Late for the on-time drawing. All right, who's gonna donate? Awesome. Who's gonna go to Green Valley next Thursday? Awesome.
What time, 11? I'm sorry. That's way better than 9:30, that's how I was getting at. Thank you.
All right, no, this says 12:30, although this one says 12.
See?
I think it is 12.
Yeah, that sounds more logical.
Yeah. 12, not 12:30.
Not 9:30.
12, not 12:30.
12.
What was that?
Not 12:30.
I'm gonna be there, absolutely. All right, another great event coming up, May 2nd. That's just a couple of weeks away. It is baseball, Aviators baseball. It's a lot of fun. There's a section that's roped off just for us. We have a buffet, burgers, dogs, chips, drinks, cookies, and I don't know what else. But it's a lot of fun. So far, I think we have 30 that have signed up and paid. It is $50 a person, but it's a great event. It really is. It's a lot of fun. Last year we had it in the middle of the summer, and it was scorching hot. And-
Yeah.
What was that?
Said May is definitely better.
Yeah. So this should be a lot cooler this year. So lots of fun.
Food was good.
Food was good. She even had to buy a shirt there because what she was wearing was too hot. Now you have a shirt to wear.
I know, yes.
You going?
I'm going. I'm gonna get 2 tickets and bring my grandbaby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you paid?
Huh?
Have you paid yet?
No, I'm gonna pay today.
All right.
Well, you, right?
Yeah, you could sell me for the tickets. You could bring in a check. You could bring in cash. We don't care. Did I say it's a lot of fun?
Yes.
How many times?
Friday night.
Friday night. All right. In 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks, John Story is coming to town. And it is May 15th from 9:30 to 11:30. So we won't be having a meeting here that day. Let's take it on the road and go and listen to John Story. He's a great speaker, great coach. A lot of agents that I've known over the years have been coached by John. He's a little rough around the edges. So if you have delicate ears, just be aware that he does use a few cuss words here and there. But then again, so do I.
Kids are here.
Yeah. That is at the Summerlin office on the 15th from 9:30 to 11:30.
Probably like Gary V.
Probably a lot like Gary, yeah. And Tom cusses a lot too.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Tom Ferry does.
Yeah. Not a lot, but he does.
His dad,
Hmm?
Mike.
Mike does as
So
well.
hard habits break.
Yeah, yeah.
Spits.
All right, John is not here. Let's talk stats. So active listings as of the 21st was 8,592.
Wow, that went up.
It went up, not drastically. Of that, 6,009 are single family. As far as solds, it's 2,507, and our month's inventory is 3.4. Let's compare that to just a week ago. So a week ago, so now it's 8,592, 8,408. So it's gone up almost 200 listings.
Wow.
5,891, and it's currently over 6,000 single family. So inventory is going up. It's not like skyrocketing, but it is going up. Solds this week is 2,507. Last week was 2,463, so solds have gone up a little, and that's why the month's inventory has remained at 3.4. So that's our stats for the week. Any questions on stats? Who actually, we put these in our social media accounts. We put it in our newsletters to you every Friday. But so just grab them and put it on your social media, or just kind of know the numbers, because the consumer, we can use these with our buyers and sellers. So, all right, with that being said, LLCs, SCORPs, 1099s, anything tax related, we have Kenneth Toop, Esquire. And Kenneth, I found out, he speaks our language. He knows us because he is a realtor. So I haven't heard him speak yet, but I'm excited to hear what he has to say. So with that being said, welcome up.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning?
Fantastic.
Great. Yep. So I used to be a broker. I still have my license, but I was a broker for a couple of years. Helped open up some offices and things like that too. And then I decided to inflict a whole bunch of pain on my life and just become an attorney. The one person that people just don't really like seeing. So I wanted to get into an area of law where I really help the agents that I've just grown, just deep relationships with. Most of my clients, I'd say 95% of my clients are real estate agents or their clients. And I get a lot of calls on a weekly basis. There we go. Because they know I know the answers, right? Your brokers might be busy, they're managing a lot of agents. I'm kind of like a good backup resource, I like to think of myself as. And the best calls I think that I get It's when one of you are on a listing appointment, and grab my cell phone, please, grab my cell phone, text me, shoot me a call, anything like that. But my favorite calls are when someone calls me, they're on a listing appointment, and they're like, hey, I'm sitting here with my client, we're talking about selling their house. At that point, I understand what's happening, right? I understand you need to get a transaction. Listings are just so much more valuable than any other clients that you can get, buyers and other clients are there, but sellers are just so valuable that you really want to make sure that if you're there, you're closing that deal if it's possible, right? So I can help you get over those legal questions, those hurdles. Hey, I want to list Joe's house, but his mom just passed away. What can we do, right? I'll pull up the tax record right there. I'll figure out there's some sort of solutions, or figure out a way for you to get them, you know, in your pocket. We work with them to actually list the property, and then you jump back in and get the property listed for them. Okay, so please grab my cell phone, my email. I'm on the corner of Green Valley Parkway and West Horizon Ridge, but I'm over on this side of town quite often as well. So. And then really quick, areas of law. No, I love it. I love Tupac. So this is what I mostly practice in. I practice in estate planning, lots of wills, trusts, and everything like that. LLCs play a vital role in estate planning, right? And you working with, and we'll talk about it a little bit as well, you working with investors, right? Does everyone ever get the question from a buyer, like, should I put this in an LLC, or what do I do?
Absolutely.
Right, all the time. And then the big question is, it's like, okay, I got 3 properties. What do I do with these 3 properties? 1 LLC, 2, 3, right? So we'll get into that too, so you know how to answer, or at least provide some guidance on what a good strategy would be. Lots of probate, right? We do estate planning to avoid probate, but has anyone done a probate sale before for a property? Perfect, right? The courts have changed a lot and sped things up quite a bit. There's even a process where we could forego all that court stuff. Don't do the court stuff, do a normal traditional sale. You don't have to sit with a buyer like, hey, you know, lots of listings are coming up. Do you mind sitting on this one for 90 days until you can buy it? You know, that just doesn't fly a lot of times, right? So we figure out a way to make sure, if possible, you can just do a normal sale, but it's still in the middle of probate. A lot of real estate laws I talked about, small business services, because everyone's an entrepreneur in this room, whether you like it or not, and then some injury law as well for my clients.
What about foreclosure?
I do I'm doing some foreclosures, and I work on foreclosures. It just kind of depends on the complexities of it. But in the foreclosure world, I represent like the lender, mostly private lenders, but we also work with a trust company that does all the notice, all that other kind of stuff too. So we don't do that side of it. So what is an LLC? Has everyone heard of an LLC?
Yeah, limited liability company.
I love it. Who hasn't heard of an LLC?
No.
Ah, man, I wish. Cool. So it is a limited liability company. Nevada is one of the most friendliest states for limited liability companies, right? Everyone talks about it as like the Delaware of the West, but people from other states are filing Nevada LLCs because we are so friendly to our LLC owners, right? So it's a legal structure. This is the big mistake, especially if you're on social media, TikTok, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of advice out there that's like half-truths, right? But LLC is not a tax structure. It's a legal structure, right? It gives you tax flexibility, but if you're a sole proprietor or if you're a default LLC, it's all the same, one and the same. Money the IRS just looks at it, money comes in your bank, money sitting in your bank, that money's your money, right? And you need to deduct things out of that. Doesn't matter what's there, right? That's kind of the default. It's called a disregarded entity, right? Like it doesn't even exist in the IRS. But on the legal side it does. But it is a separate entity, right? And then while we have all these like protections here in Nevada, and Nevada really likes it, there are a few formalities that you have to abide by, okay? And we'll talk about that. But it's somewhat of a hybrid entity. Gives you the protections and aspects of a corporation without all the formalities, right? There's not all the minutes you have to take, electing corporate officers, none of that. It's very low maintenance, really easy to set up, and really easy to manage. And as we go along this, I'm sorry I'm talking to my back mostly over here, but as we're going along with this kind of stuff, please shoot out questions. I want to make sure this is all relevant for you guys too. So again, it's a separate legal entity. So when it comes into like estate planning, right? there goes the question on, okay, how many entities do we need, right? Has everyone seen, I get this one sent to me like every 4 or 5 months, but has everyone seen that Waka Flocka meme where he's just like, hey, tell us about your asset structure. He's like, okay, I got an asset LLC for this, I got a trust for this, I got this here, I got a family foundation that manages here, and then it's all flowing to an SCORP, and my SCORP, my kid owned that. You know, I mean, it's just like
Lots of
huge,
branches, yeah.
it's a massive spider web of everything going on. And I get this call often, it's like, hey, here's my plan. I'm gonna start flipping houses, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, so I need 5 entities. It's like, you know, let's peel it back a little bit, and let's figure out like, okay, for example, if you bought a house, and it was FHA, and it ended up being an investment property, and you have $10,000 of equity in it, and it's in your LLC, what's your exposure? $10,000. That's it, right? So that's the point of putting something in a box, because you're protecting that equity. Now, when it's a lot of equity, you might go, okay, I need, you know, it's $1 million of equity, okay? And I'm late stages of life and I need to retire soon. So I really, really need to make sure someone's not gonna take all this. So then you might add complexities because you wanna add protections and protect more, right? So the more complex your structures get, the harder it is to manage, the less you understand it, because most people are just business operators, you know, they're making the money, they're not doing the back end stuff. And then it just becomes difficult to manage at the end of the day. But flexible taxation, and that's really what we're here for today, right? Flexible taxation is once you are an LLC, you can tell the IRS and say, hey IRS, I need to be taxed differently, right? And you have that option. You can be taxed as an S-corp, right? And that's the basic one, the tax structure that applies to most real estate agents once they get to a certain level of profitability. Does anyone have an S-corp election that they're managing? I love it, I love it. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, again, just super friendly to all that kind of stuff. So, what sort of formalities exist with LLCs? What do you have to do every year?
Pay taxes.
Yeah.
You
gotta
pay
file-
quarterly taxes, estimated quarterly taxes.
Yeah, pay your quarterly taxes, right? File,
File your officer.
yeah, file, right, your
Pay a
list of officers every year.
fee. Pay a yearly fee.
Yeah, pay your yearly fee, and then pay a registered agent if you are paying a registered agent every year, right? And real estate divisions specifically, they want to make sure that if you are a traveling agent, right, or if you're domiciled in another state, you have to have a registered agent in Nevada, right? Or somebody to serve in Nevada, that's what they want. So same with the division, right? Let's say you're an agent, you file your LLC, what do you have to do with the division?
Pay.
Yeah, you gotta pay them, right? But you send your license back, right? And they actually let you operate, there's no downtime, but your office manager will do that for you. They'll send your license back to the division, you'll get a new license number, and it'll say .LLC at the end, right? So when you have to like advertise or publish your license number, it should have that new license number with the .LLC, right? So that your clients know they're not dealing with the old personally liable real estate agent, they're dealing with the new LLC. Does that make sense? Cool, so not too much. And then state, right, you have your state, that happens when you file with the Nevada Secretary of State, your county or your city licenses, and that's really it. There's not a whole bunch that's really required for it. Okay, now, this one right here, alter ego doctrine, these LLC formalities, these are what a attorney will look at and a court will look at to make sure that your LLC is actually an LLC, okay? All the time, one of the most difficult things is, you know, most people when you're a sole proprietor, before you file for an LLC, you know, you have one bank account, you have a checking account. You get paid into your checking account. So your marketing expenses, where does it come out of? Checking account. Your groceries, your mortgage, your rent, checking account. But once you get an LLC, you have to separate all that. You should start doing it in the beginning anyways, as a good rule of thumb, but all of that has to be separate. Right? So let's say you have rent that's first, but your checking account doesn't have enough money. How do you pay for your rent?
You transfer.
Yeah, transfer it over, move it to your personal, from your personal, pay over there, right? Now let's say, oops, accidentally, you know, bought some personal groceries from my business account. What should you do?
Put it back.
You can put it back. That's like, oops, mistake, my bad. And you can document it. I heard it over there, right? Reimburse yourself, right? But just document it. Right? This is a reimbursement if it was for business and you paid out of your personal checking. But if it was like an accident, right? That needs to just be documented as your own distribution, right? So they understand. Because here's the unfortunate part as well. The downside to being an attorney is that if somebody comes to me, and also the good part if you're a client, but if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, this, and this happened, I'm ethically required to sue everybody. Like, I'm ethically required to go after you personally, try to take your home and your cars, do everything I possibly can, right? I'll go after any of your employees. I have to do that, right? Because if I don't, my client can sue me because I left some liability on the table, right? I left opportunity on the table, right, for her recovery. So because of that, those formalities are the first things that we start to go after, okay? So just maintaining it all really simple, and real estate agents are great because you're in mostly a low transaction environment, right? You get 5 to 20 income streams per year or big checks per year, and then what's your monthly expenses, right? It's not a whole bunch. You don't have inventory, don't have a lot of employees. It's basic marketing, office expenses, right? So you're kind of in a low transaction environment, which makes it really, really, you know, more simple to track and do those sort of things. So alter ego, right? That's what we really look at, is business, business, and is personal, personal. Right. Any questions on that one? That's probably one of the biggest ones that trips a lot of people out. Okay, good. Bank accounts, separate bank accounts. Everyone has a separate bank account?
Yes.
I love it. Okay, when you got your EIN, or did you get an EIN for your LLCs?
Yes.
Love it. Does your broker have your EIN?
Yes.
Yes. Does your check say your LLC?
Yes.
Good. And it all goes right to your business bank account. Right? I love it. And then your accounting records, right? Keep good accounting records. Obviously that helps a lot when it comes to IRS time, but same thing, right? Maintaining your accounting records, because these are all checks and balances that someone can say, hey, you were blending it, right? And you say, no, that's separate bank, separate tax ID, separate accounting, right? Here's all the documentations of when, you know, personal funds were used here, we did a reimbursement, or we just tracked it as a distribution, okay? And then an operating agreement.
Yes.
Yes, perfect, right? Make sure you have an operating agreement. Now, one of the biggest things with your operating agreement, and anyone that raised your hand that you have an SCORP, your operating agreement must, absolutely must say that you have made the tax election to be an SCORP.
Yes.
Right? Perfect. If you don't, the IRS does go back and negate all of that, right? It seems really harsh, right, that they'll actually go back and do that, but I think maybe a solid 75% of LLCs don't have operating agreements and they're not managing it properly. Okay, but go back to your operating agreement and make sure that it does it. And I love it that you have. I've actually never seen one. I've never seen an agent with an LLC and an S-Corp have an operating agreement that says we're electing to be an S-Corp.
And if you don't do that, then how are you treated under the tax?
Just as a disregarded entity. So any sort of tax mitigation that you've done over the years, they'll just roll that back and just say you were
Retroactively.
retroactive.
Oh,
Can you make an addition or an addendum or an addition to the operating agreement?
You'll amend it, or you can make a resolution or something like that. Yeah.
It's not retroactive, though. If you didn't do it and then you do it, then you don't, they go back and say, well, in the last 5 years you didn't do it, so now we're retroactively going to.
They have the
take
ability
away
to
the
do it.
benefits.
I should say that.
They have the ability.
They have the ability.
There's less people working there now, so they're on.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I know. For them to get to it too, I mean, they're gonna pick up the low-hanging fruits. My opinion is they're just gonna simplify it all and just do a lot of AI. I mean, AI can audit 1 billion people in like an hour, you know? And so that's eventually what they're gonna do. Because you see there's a lot of push. This isn't political by any means, you know, but there's a lot of push to simplify taxes. Why? Right? Right now it's just overly complex. So they'll shoot out a letter, right? Like, oh, please, IRS is like, great. They have to generate revenue, right? So they'll shoot it out to the low-hanging fruit. A lot of people won't come back, they won't argue, they won't take it to the next level, they won't go to tax court, right? So they're just hoping for payouts.
So can you just quickly, a little bit of summary of what is the tax benefit, like I know it's complicated. complex, but the largest tax benefit to having the LLC versus for people that don't, versus not having this.
Yes.
Because that's the real reason, I mean, it's to protect your assets, so they can't sue you and take your house and your car and your other things, but
Correct.
also from a tax perspective.
Perfect, yeah, that's coming up. That'd be yeah, I love it. That's exactly where we're
I know
headed.
you're not a tax accountant, but.
No. So I sold my previous firm and we did a lot of tax law. Yeah, I'm getting out of the tax world for the most part, just because I don't want to represent people in the IRS and tax court. Because here's the thing, it's like you call me to represent, this is getting into the weeds too much, but if I sit on the phone with the IRS for 6 hours before someone calls,
You get charged for 6 hours.
yeah, who wants to pay that? I just get clients mad at me all the time. I'm just like, okay, this isn't my thing, you know? So, but the good thing about in the tax world is they have a lot of publications. A lot of publications, a lot of opinions, a lot of things you can look at and say, hey, I relied on this. You know, how is mine any different? Right? So there is a good case actually with the broker on what reasonable compensation is what we'll get into, okay? Okay, perfect. So, as a self-employed individual, we get taxed extra. Yeah, right? Just right off the bat, doesn't matter, you're self-employed, you're getting hit with this, right? You were kind of getting hit with it before, but your employer was absorbing it, right? Half of it at least. But now who's your employer? Yourself. So you're getting both sides of it. So everybody's hit with this new 15.3%. So one of the biggest things that people aren't expected is like, okay, right, you're all 1099, right? Is a broker holding taxes back for you? No, right? So this is where you don't want to get in trouble because I don't know, before I got into real estate, I didn't see checks that were over $15,000. Like that just blew my mind, you know? And in my first house, you're like, what is this, you know? There's 2 digits here before a comma, like I've never seen this, right? So then you're like, you know, okay, wow, I got a whole bunch of money, and then, right, the year comes by, it's gone, you spend it, change your lifestyle, you're like, whoa, this is nuts, right? And then like year 2, you're like, I'm not spending $1, you know, that's what happened last year. So putting aside per check is just a really good thing to do, right? Every check that you get, throw aside a piece.
30% at least, I would say.
30% is a good amount, right? And what most people will do is look at what their tax was last year, right? Assume they're gonna kind of do the same, and then that's kind of what they start to plan for, and then you can make your estimated payments along the way, right? So every quarter, make your quarterly estimated payments, and then your last one, that's when you can start to work with your tax person, say, hey, you're gonna owe this much, you're gonna owe that much, so your last estimated payment will be so and so forth, right? So I think 30% is a good amount. Usually that's where we advise people, it usually ends up between 25 and 30%, right? Because that's honestly gonna be on the high side of your income, right? Because it's your income, and then what comes after that? All your expenses, right? Your deductions, your depreciation, and then you're left with profit. Right? So here's a very simplified, this is like overly simplified, but this illustrates what the benefit of an S-Corp election is, okay? So here's an example, right? Someone makes $100,000, 1099, $100,000 bucks, right? The purpose of making an S-Corp election is saying, hey IRS, right? I'm gonna pay myself what? I don't know the term, a salary, but not just a salary, what salary?
All of them.
Yeah, I wish, right?
Employee salary.
What's that?
Employee salary.
Essentially, right, but it's a reasonable salary. That's what it's called. That's what the IRS calls it, a reasonable salary. That's what you have to pay yourself.
Net salary, okay. Half.
So in this example, just for simplicity's sake, let's say you paid yourself half, $50,000, a reasonable salary. When we say pay yourself, this means how? Through payroll. You signed up with the payroll company, you're paying yourself payroll, you're taking out all your taxes out of that, right? Just like you're a normal employee, right? And then the other 50% distribution, it's mitigated, right? Or 50% or $50,000 in this example, right? So your savings on a $100,000 salary, assuming a reasonable salary was $50,000, would be roughly around $7,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So $7,000 savings. Of course, once you get into your taxes, everyone knows how complex it is, right? There's other deductions, standard deductions, etc., etc. So this is overly simplified for those purposes, but it gives you that illustration of the benefit of doing an S-Corp election.
So if you don't do that, then the full 100,000 is your income?
Yep.
And you're paying tax on.
Yeah, you'll just pay an extra $7,500 for no reason, right?
So you're only paying taxes on what you pay in yourself?
Correct, correct.
What-
You're only paying self-employment taxes.
Okay, what about the other taxes that the LLC made?
So LLCs, right, it'll be just flowed to your own personal 1040. So that just goes into your normal income, right? And then you get all those like child tax credit,
Maybe do an itemized to
dependent,
kinda
itemized deductions if you're doing that, right, on the personal side. So this just mitigates that 15.3%. That's the purpose of the S-Corp election, right? That's really what it does. But to get that, there's gonna be costs, right? It's not free, right? There's some extra formalities and there's some extra penalties that could come along with it as well. Okay, so any questions on this? This is kind of like the crux of it to understand. It's really mitigating that extra tax that they got thrown at us. Right, so let's say they got rid of that 15.3% tax, right? That's been thrown out there, right? Would you need an S-Corp? No, now all of a sudden it's just too much formalities, like you're not getting any benefit.
It depends on how much you make. I think if you're making enough money to offset the S-Corp, then it's definitely worth it.
But what I'm saying is if they do get rid of the self-employment tax,
Oh.
yeah, right? Like that's been thrown around. Has everyone been paying attention or listening to that kind of stuff? They throw around a lot of stuff in politics, so I don't really know what's gonna hit. But that's what we're looking at, right? It's this random tax that got thrown on us for going out there and trying to build America, in my opinion, and now we have to pay more for it, right?
When did that get implemented?
Oh, when
Like, long time ago?
yeah,
Okay.
since I made money, as far as I know, yeah.
The S-Corp is like the filing status with the IRS, right?
Yeah, great. So,
It's not really like more paperwork, it's just a filing status.
no, it's more paperwork as well. Yeah, and we'll get into that as well. These are phenomenal questions, I love it, right?
Because if you don't have this,
Oh, for
then
the accountant, oh yeah, okay.
if you
It's
don't,
more paperwork for my CPA or whatever.
Yeah, just more paperwork for you, kick that can over there, yeah, for sure. It's just a little bit to get it filed.
and if you don't do this, then I think to Brian's question, then either your revenue or your losses end up rolling over into your personal. And then because you're either trying to reduce your taxable income on the personal side, or you're increasing your income.
Yeah, so
if
think,
you, like, if you're married, right, and you have one person that is a W-2 employee and has income, and you are a real estate agent,
Mhm.
the benefit of not, and if you don't do it this way, then you can either lose money and then deduct those losses off of your W-2 personal income, or you're adding to it, right? So if you're not doing it this way and paying payroll taxes.
kind of yes, kind of no, right? Because you have to remember, this $100,000 net income, what's his actual revenue? I mean, just guess, $200,000, right? Say his actual revenue is $200,000. Then what comes down after your revenue? Then it comes your car expense, right? Your marketing expenses.
Yeah, or your expenses.
Whatever, travel, right? And then it's all deducted in your LLC, for our purposes. And then that's what's net, right? That's net. So this $15,300 is just the self-employment part of your self-employment income, right? So we're just mitigating that, right? Because then we just don't have to pay those extra taxes, right? That's it. It's not really an expense that gets deducted on the other side per se, because your business expenses are still getting deducted on your side of the table, as you can think of it as. That make sense?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have to form these two entities at the same time, or can you have an existing LLC and put it in, do a new S-Corp?
I love it. So it's a tricky thing, right? Because you hear everyone online too say, and I'm saying it too, I'm calling it an S-Corp, right? But it is not an S-Corp. This is an LLC, and you said, hey, IRS, tax me like an S-Corp. S-Corp. Am I saying S-Corp? I'm listening to myself. Yeah, right? You still have an LLC, and that's your only entity, right? You just filed a paper with the IRS that said, okay, I don't want to be a disregarded entity anymore, treat me like an S-Corp. But structurally, you're still just an LLC.
It's just the way you're taxed on for the S Corp, that's what it's for.
So,
It's the filing status.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
filing step. Yeah. Yeah, you're just asking the IRS to treat you differently. Because remember, the IRS doesn't care about its illegal status. They don't care about that, right? They just want to know how am I taxing this person?
Okay.
Yeah.
And, what volume of, should you change to an S Corp?
Over 50 grand.
Yeah, here's where, like, there's a good rule of thumb, right? And a big piece of this, and I'll jump to it too, just because we're running a little bit short on time. And I'll do that
You
now.
can go long.
Oh, okay. And then if you guys get tired, just throw your shoes at me and just start walking out. Don't mind the tears. But here, we'll get into this. I think this is the most important, right? Okay, so what's your salary, right? That's the big question. That's perfect, right? Well, how much do you pay yourself? Ideally, if you don't pay your 15.3% on non-payroll money, how much do you want to pay yourself? Like $1, you know? And then everything else is mitigated, right? But the IRS isn't going to have that. There's plenty of cases about that, which is funny, right? So you have to pay yourself something called a reasonable salary. So you would think the IRS would tell you that, right? They don't, right? They don't tell you what a reasonable salary is. So every reasonable salary is going to be different for every individual. So let's just say, right, you're treating yourself as an employee, right? And you go get hired somewhere. What are certain things that business owner is going to look at in terms of how much to pay you?
W-2?
Yeah, right? They're going to pay you a W-2, right? So they might look at other W-2s of similar positions in other industries, right? Or in other competitors, right? So they might look at similar salaries other places. What else?
How many hours you work?
Yeah, how many hours you work? Are you working 5
Experience.
hours, 100 hours? Experience, right? Surveys of the land, all that kind of stuff. They're going to do all that to figure out how much do I pay this employee. The IRS wants you to do the same for yourself, right? So this is actually from IRS publication. These are the things that they look at. Training and experience, duties and responsibilities, time and effort devoted to the business, dividend history, payments to non-shareholders, timing, comparable businesses, compensation agreements, the use of formula to determine compensation, right? So say you're out there grinding, pounding pavement, working your 10 hours a day, right? And you made $300,000, okay? Is that different than an agent that went out and sold 2 giant luxury homes for $20 million each, right? And he worked like an hour a week. Did they put in the same amount of effort?
No.
By far, right? No, right? There's a drastic difference there, right? So should their salaries be the same if they made the same at the end of the year? No, because they worked different amounts, right? But they might have made the same. So like a lot of CPAs and things like that will just give you like, oh, we do a 50% rule here. Pay yourself 50% of the, like my example, right? Pay yourself 50% in salary, you take home the other 50%. But that could drastically change, right? There could be a year where you just, February, you already made $200,000. I'm gonna take a vacation for the rest of the year. You know, this is great. I've been wanting to visit grandma. Right? That salary for that year should be drastically different because you barely work. Okay? So these sort of things too, it's why it's important to actively work with people. Here's some other things that they look at, right? And this is from tax court cases. Comparison to similar businesses, salary surveys, so they'll actually look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, see what those are. Compensation databases, economic conditions, your profitability, and they'll actually, IRS will hire an expert, right, to go and try and evaluate this. So there is one case that a lot of people reference, but it's a broker. I think it was in California, but it was a broker. He wasn't actually a licensed real estate agent, which is weird, but he was a broker, managing a brokerage. He got, I think it was $500 plus $1,000 of income. Profit was right around $250,000 of income, but he worked full time, 8 hours a day the whole year, right? So what do you think a reasonable salary for a broker that brought in that much money that isn't licensed should be?
150.
What is
200.
200, right? I love it, right? So the IRS expert actually came back and was like, okay, we did all this research. It looks like a reasonable compensation for you would have been $100,775 or something like that, right? And then tax court came back and said, well, you know, this guy, he's not licensed. He did work full time, didn't do much overtime, right? Didn't go above and beyond, didn't work on commission, didn't do anything like that. So like, oh, we think he made about $40 per hour, right? So they gave the salary, said reasonable salary should have been $88,000, right? Or $80,000, right? Or no, $88,000, right? So the tax court actually came back and said, great, you know, $88,000. But see, the natural tendency for everybody's like, okay, pay yourself higher, you know? But don't look at those sort of things. So look it up. I won't tell you what it is, but look up on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You know, what's the average real estate agent?
Nothing.
Right? And it's different in different markets, right? But they'll also look at, do you have a formula of how we're calculating this every year, right? Or are you just doing something really
But that
simple
88
and
was
quick?
beneficial for the broker, because then he was taxed on 88 instead of
Correct.
150.
But he paid himself zero, so that's why he ended up in tax court. But he, but it dwindled down to his, right? Everyone in this room, right? If he had a jury, right? They'd been like, no, this guy, look at him in his fancy suits, you know, $200,000. But then the tax, you know, expert was like here, tax court was like here, and they're pretty reasonable. The biggest problem is how much do you think it cost him to get to tax court, right? I mean, it could have been $100,000 of legal fees to get there. Okay, so that's one of those things, right? A lot of people are a little bit too aggressive, in my opinion, but they just have to have a basis of why are you paying yourself for this, right? What are you doing? How did you come up with your salary?
I wanna know, how does like Elon Musk and people pay themselves $1 a year and able to allow these distributions? How do you do that? That's what I wanna know.
Well, a lot of those people do.
He steals all the tax records.
Well, here's one of the big things. Once you're in like the $1 billion thresholds, right? All you do is do portfolio loans to yourself, right? Because if you have a appreciating asset, right, and you pay yourself that, is debt income? No, it's debt. You just have to pay it back. But if your assets are appreciating, you just pay it off with future gains. And there's certain ways to distribute yourself through trust work and things like that to mitigate your taxes. But last thing here, and we'll get into that, well, maybe a passing, but the big formalities, right? How do you file for your S-Corp? Does anyone know how to file for it?
For your S-Corp?
Yeah, make that S-Corp election.
Silver flume.
Yeah, Silver Flume, go and get your LLC set up. And then you have to file something with the IRS called the 2553. And it's just asking you who you are, what are your tax years, that kind of stuff. But there's a deadline to submit it. Right, does anyone know what the deadline is?
March.
Yeah, March 15th is a good one if you're doing it on like a normal calendar year, right? They say 2 months and 15 days. 2 months and 15 days after the tax year starts or after you start your business, right? That's when you need to file it by. You can be late, but you have to just be ready to argue it with them because they accept reasonable excuses, I should say, to get it as well. Right? So, are you too late for this year? Probably not if you still have a good excuse for why you didn't. And I mean, a normal excuse is like someone told me, like, and someone come in, their CPA was like, oh yeah, you just started paying yourself, you don't have to actually file anything with the IRS, which is just kind of nonsense, right? So that's an excuse, right? IRS generally really accepts it. Right? So let me ask you this too, what payroll services is everyone using?
ADP.
ADP? Why ADP? I think that's like a thing CPAs push. But
Why do you think, what does this start with a G?
Gusto.
Gusto.
Yeah. Gusto is one of, I have a lot of clients that go on Gusto because it's like $40 a month or
Oh,
something.
really?
It used to be like 23, so I don't know if that's still there.
ADP's pricey.
ADP is pricey and they're
Yeah.
overly complex and they're impossible to get rid of.
How do you, Gusto?
Gusto, yeah. They actually, ADP charged one of my clients thousands to get out of this contract.
Thousands?
I don't know why he signed a contract, anyways, you know, that's his thing.
Yeah.
But Gusto, and there's a lot of like really cheap, because do you have to pay yourself every month? No, you could do one massive payroll in December. Yeah, and the IRS will treat that as trickled out throughout the year to mitigate what your actual penalties are if you underpaid on your estimates. Right? So just working with the tax person is really going to help you go a long way. So, okay, it's past my time. I do want to thank everybody for being here. Please make sure you get my cell phone number. Please give your clients my office number. Honestly, they'll reach me faster if they get that as well. And then use me as a resource. Anybody have any questions, please let me know.
How much is for the trust and will?
Yeah, really good question, right? Everybody that comes to my meetings, I give a $500 discount. So, but generally speaking, it's $2,500 for single, $3,000 for married. So just minus $500 off that. Just tell me that you were here, no problem. And if you have a blended family, I won't get into horror stories. Please give me a call just to let you know how important tax planning is to make sure your kids are.
Is that for original, trust? What if you need a modification to an existing one?
Oh yeah, modifications, depending on what it is, but it's just hourly. But the most amendments takes like 30 minutes to do, maybe an hour. So $200 to $300 is usually what amendments are.
So just bring in the original trust and what you want to change.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I try to keep it simple for everyone. But
What all services do you provide?
I love it. Yeah, no, we do a lot of wills, trusts. So an estate plan, right? We look at all your assets, figure out what you need. So usually it's a will, trust, HIPAA waivers, power of attorneys, financial, healthcare power of attorneys, your last wishes, those sort of things. It's all done all together, right, with the will as well.
And then I thought that was all, isn't that all included when you do the trust, right?
Yeah, that's what our estate planning package is. And then we look at any sort of entities and things like that that you might need as well, right? Because once you get to like that $13 million price point, there's a bunch of tax planning that needs to happen. But again, we do a lot of probate, a lot of real estate. I get a lot of EMD disputes, right? More now than probably in a long time, but a lot of EMD disputes. And I just help a lot of agents with transactions as well. So same, I don't charge you guys. If you call me, you need a quick tip, you're wondering where to go, obviously go to your brokers first, but if there's ever like a legally specific question, give me a call. I don't charge for that kind of stuff. I want to help you get to a deal.
Would you help our clients if they need to get out of the apartment lease because they're buying a house?
Yeah, we've done that a lot. A lot of apartments just don't want to pay for their attorney to come and like do stuff.
And how much would that be for you to do that?
Hourly.
Hourly.
Yeah, here's the tough part too. Everyone and clients want like it's X dollars, but I know how much it is for me to review documents and write a letter. I don't know how the other people are going to respond, right? And they might be like, sorry about that, here's your release. Or they might like, see you in court, you know, and we just don't know like how crazy these people or how cordial these people will be. So up to a point I can give a fee. So usually it's like, usually about an hour and a half, so $700 to $900 to do the demand letter, review the lease, that kind of stuff. And then I don't know what happens after that.
Okay.
It just kind of
Because they have a penalty of $6 grand, so it's still, you know, they're still.
Yeah.
They can save that.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question. What's the difference between just a traditional trust or a land trust?
And what trust?
Land trust?
Yeah, land trust. We don't actually use land trust here. Title companies hate it. Every time I'm like, have you done any land trust? I'm like, please don't do land trust. But so what we do in Nevada, a land trust essentially is just like a normal revocable living trust, but land is the asset. Think of it mostly like that. Because they'll have their all estate plan, blah, 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 but there might be a reason why there's a trust on this particular land for estate planning purposes or for ownership, or they're trying to like mask transfer taxes or something like that. So just think of it like that. It's a regular trust, it's just with land planning. I mean, the land is the asset.
Okay.
One more. If you have a client that has properties from out of state and they want to put it in a corporation or LLC, but they live in Nevada, how is that going to be treated?
Yeah, so good question. I can't draft deeds in other states. So what we do is usually set up the entity here, figure out how many entities they need. If they need a series LLC, regular LLC, 1, 5, whatever, set up those entities, then work with counsel in different states to file the deeds.
Okay.
Sometimes the clients will do it themselves if they're, you know, DIYers, but usually we'll engage other attorneys to do those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alrighty, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Great information. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
And thank you all for being here today. And remember, no matter how you slice it, greatness is a choice. Let's go out there and be great.